Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. Hope everyone is doing okay. It is Friday. An anonymous source. Let me check my sound first before I go into the story. I found the story interesting. I've been following the story as information has leaked out or as things have taken place that have kind of pointed me in a particular direction of thought. So, let's have a conversation about TYT. Weird things have been going on at TYT. And I would like to pose a hypothesis based on what an anonymous source that's close to the network told me. I was told that the books, in order to make them more appeasing to the buyers, essentially Katzenberg, the people who gave him $20 million as an investment, that those books weren't necessarily on the up and up, that they were done in a way that allowed investors to be more amicable to bite. And after they bid, you ran into this problem of viewership going down. And not just viewership going down, how do you show an investment on something if the books weren't necessarily on the up and up when the choice was made for the investment? Now, let me show you what I mean. So, and there's a logic to this. And now I'm saying it's a source close to the network. I don't have the capacity to confirm or deny this, meaning I can't get to the network itself to confirm it. So I'm putting this out there just kind of as this is what I was told by an anonymous source. But I kind of want to back up what the source is saying because there's some evidence to kind of bolster the point. So this took place in 2017. August 8th. Progressive media outlet The Young Turks has raised $20 million in venture capital funding and plans to double its staff. That was August 2017. They're bleeding their staff at this point. They've been laying people off. The Young Turks, one of the longest running progressive digital video outlets, announced a major round of funding on Tuesday. The 3L Capital, Graycroft E Ventures, and Wincrow, which is led by business executive and Democratic Party kingmaker Jeffrey Katzenberg, will invest $20 million in the progressive media company for which a decade has live streamed hours of video content with a progressive perspective. We've got the content side figured out pretty well, ranked #1 in the news vertical in all the rankings, but it's time to build the rest of the business, Cenk Uygur, co-founder and host, said in an interview with Business Insider. Now, you can imagine that this would turn some people off. Uygur dismissed the argument, saying he's greatly amused by the lack of reason among his critics. I hope they raise the $20 million in 27 increments, otherwise it's shockingly corrupt. Beholden to number corporate interests except the good people at 3L Capital. Essentially not beholden to any corporate interests except the good Christian people at 3L Capital, Democratic Party's investment arm. Look, right here, getting money in your company is a completely different concept. It has nothing to do with getting money out of politics. Uygur said it's a preposterous statement. How could anyone ever build a company if they didn't have investments? It doesn't make any sense. I don't know how to address it when it's not based on logic. But it is based on logic. You just don't like the logic. And it's a logic you created, buddy. This is your reasoning. And when they're using your reasoning against you, you don't particularly like it. Now, if you were in some kind of Fox News and you were raising investment, nobody would care. You would be perfectly in alignment with whatever, those cronies or the plutocrats want you to say. You raise an investment, you're not going to say anything that impeaches the people who are investing the money to you. But your problem is somewhat of the problem of the Democratic Party. Your argument that you've assiduously stuck to, and I'm talking about TYT, is that money in politics affects the person, the individual that's in the office, that they lean towards the people who are giving them the cash. I agree with you. I think that argument is right. I think it is nonsensical to say that this politician is getting a ton of money, but his integrity is so superhuman, is so Herculean, the integrity of the person, that it doesn't change their perspective one iota. One of two things is true. Either the person just has an already fucked up perspective, in which case I don't want him in the office, or the person is leaning to the cash, which again, I don't want him in the office. I think it's the cash. I think people lean in the direction of the cash. They think the cash is necessary for them to get elected, and as such, they believe that they can make incremental changes as long as they don't do anything that would get those people who are giving them the money to stop giving them the cash. Your problem, Uger, is that this argument from your audience can also be applied to you. If you're taking $20 million from a Democratic establishment person, what are you going to do for the money? You've made that argument against politicians for God knows how long. And again, I agree with you that the argument is true, but now they're using this argument for you. Now, what I agree with two things. The Young Turks is a capitalistic enterprise. Uger has always described himself as a capitalist. So if he's in a way where he can somehow maximize his company's, whatever the company does, he's going to do it. He's a good capitalist. The problem is the product that you're selling is antagonistic towards what you just did. So those people look at that with a certain amount of skepticism and cynicism in the same way that you look at political leaders taking millions of dollars with a certain amount of skepticism and cynicism. You should look at them that way because you shouldn't just assume that their integrity is going to be so Herculean that it overwhelms any another competing interests. But what about you? It's not a nonsensical argument. The argument makes perfect sense. You don't like the argument because it intrudes upon your capacity to raise more capital for your business. I'm saying both things are true. It's not that the argument is nonsensical. You just don't like it being used. Now, that being said, I am making this point, or at the very least what I was told. And let's go to this one. Less than a year. The Young Turks shed senior employees and staff shakeup. The Young Turks laid off at least 5 employees this week. A person familiar with the matter confirmed on The Wrap on Thursday. Among departures were Nomi Kantz, Hannah Cranston, who both had prominent and on-air talents for the company. In a statement, the company declined to confirm any specific numbers and instead lamented the difficult decisions required for growth. The TYT network has continued to see tremendous growth in audience sizes and engagement, as well as business partnerships and sponsorships. From time to time, we're faced with difficult decisions as we grow into larger size, influence, and reach. We truly respect our colleagues as people and as professionals, which make personnel changes difficult, even when necessary to move the company into the next phase of our evolution. Nomi clearly didn't want to go. From interviewing Jeremy Corbyn to spending months in Puerto Rico, that's wideness. Damn. Okay. Let's try to find that one more time. From interviewing Jeremy Corbyn to spending months in Puerto Rico, to delving deep into the campaign finance, to burying myself in dozens of books for TYT interviews, to getting attacked by police and smoke bombed at protests, it's been the greatest privilege working as a correspondent for the Young Turks. Thank you to the viewers and the fans for literally investing in me. Thank you to those who trusted me to share their stories. These were special stories to cover at a significant time. I often felt like a teacher and a student, learning as I was reporting for our engaged and passionate audience. Quite frankly, I took a risk jumping from cable news commenting to go on the field reporting for an independent news network. And damn, am I happy I got on the ground and into the weeds with the moment. Independent journalism is more important now than ever. Where you can, however you can, I encourage you to keep giving to independent media. Stay tuned for more direct involvement from me. And as always, jump on Twitter to hear more in real time. She didn't want to go. Why are they laying off staff? You've just gotten $20 million, not to mention you had like $2 million that you raised from the audience itself to hire Nomi, and then there was a few other journalists that were hired in this process. You're bleeding staff. If the person is right, if the source is right, that they actually did have a situation where maybe the books weren't necessarily the most correct books, and the books were somewhat inflated, and as a capitalistic enterprise that needs to make a profit and need to show value for the profit, meaning you need to show value to your corporate sponsors, your corporate overlords demand profit. You have to be profitability. Profitability is a big thing. Is that the reason why they're going through all these permutations? The most recent permutation is this. They've added another tier. TYT Insider. Beforehand, it was just $10. So God knows how long. It's been $10. And now, access TYT members show on our app and TYT.com exclusive post-game extras, stories we didn't get into, and further discussions on stories of the day. Now, the point I'm getting at here is the reason why you would add a $4.99 tier is because you're trying to entice more viewer support. Please give us money. Please give us more cash. We need more money. We need more money. We're hurting. We need more money. I am making a leap of saying they need to show a profit now. And it's possible that if the books weren't necessarily the most correct of books, but they were given in a way to give this impression that they were more profitable than what they actually were, then maybe you would have to bleed off your staff, because maybe that staff is expensive. And maybe you do need to take certain actions to try to show a profit, like this, creating another tier in order to entice more viewership into the company itself. I don't think the source is necessarily wrong. And the ultimate question is, what the hell is going on at TYT? And are their finances so much shaky? And is that the reason why they're bleeding off staff, creating additional tiers? That's what I'm putting out. That's what I'm asking. That's my question. Let's see. I know some people here have some feelings about TYT, so let's see. Since Jamal's first mention of funding, the signs revealed themselves. The investor issues make sense. This is my point. This is my point. I don't think I'm crazy on this. And there's one more thing. There's one more thing. Wait, there's one more thing. I forgot about this. I pulled this up because I was curious. This. Look at this. Viewership. Total views per month. Ticking along, it reaches a high point. We're in the election season. So during the election season, they go gangbusters. Me being one of those people who are like, oh my God, I love this coverage. They're talking about Bernie Sanders. Things are still going well. Right here. Vote Hillary. Vote Hillary. Do you remember that? Vote Hillary. You have a network supposedly of lefties. That network of lefties are avid Hillary Clinton supporters. Avid Bernie Sanders supporters. And your network, the person, the front man for your network, comes out, looks into the camera, and uses his mug, and out of his face says, vote Clinton. He knew this was going to be disliked, and it was roundly disliked. He went against what his audience wanted, and his audience punished him for it to some degree. I want to show you something. Look at the views. They cratered. Their coverage of Trump. Look at this. This is brutal. That's brutal. Is it just me? You don't get paid on subs, you get paid on views. Just a heads up. Meaning, again, inflation of the books. Again, let's put a question mark around that. Source. I'm just saying anonymous source. It's monkeying around the books in order to get investors to bite. Those investors bit. Great. Now you have $20 million. That's great. Now you have to show an investment, or you have to show a profit for that $20 million. Well, you've just told people to vote for Hillary Clinton, a progressive lefty audience who knew that they were being cheated. And you told them to vote for the person that was cheating them. And that audience hated it. And not just hated it, also hated the content to follow, because it was so anti-Trump that they started to flee away from the network. Not because they were Trump supporters, but because they thought they lost the mission. You lost the mission, bro. Look at this. What does that do to funding? Look at this from the standpoint of a country that makes its money off of oil. Say, for some point, like Venezuela. And say the price of oil was at $10 or $100 a barrel. Venezuela is going to be doing fucking awesome. Let's say that price drops to $10, however. Let's say that green energy new deals and everything else kind of just take off around the globe, and people need oil less, and the value of it drops $10 to the barrel. What does that do to economies that are functioning off of oil? Well, those economies are going to be wrecked. If you have nothing else that can supplant the value of that, then what are you going to do? You're going to be hurt. You're going to have to find some other industry in order to make your cash. Well, whether you're talking about oil or whether you're talking about viewership, that's a hit. That's a severe hit. You have a bunch of investors that donated money or invested money into your company. Those investors need to see value for what's taking place. The argument that they made was, in order to grow, we need to fire certain people or lay off certain people who are instrumental in some of their shows. I can understand you getting rid of Hannah, but Nomi? You got rid of Nomi? Oh, God. Not to mention, people paid money for Nomi to be there, and you got rid of her anyway. That in and of itself is a conversation that needs to be had. I guess I'm making a very simple and straightforward point. You get investors. Those investors need to see value. Your viewership has gone down because you came out and started screaming for people to vote Hillary Clinton. And on top of telling people to vote for Hillary Clinton, essentially has taken an anti-Donald approach that's subsumed everything else. Look at Real News Network. Real News Network is not necessarily on board for Donald Trump. By the same token, they don't spend all of their waking hours screaming about Trump. Just saying. There's a difference in those things. What is going on with the finances at TYT? And does a lot of this have to do with them needing to show value because now they have corporate overlords that demand some kind of profitability? That's what I'm asking. That's what I'm asking. Let's see. Nomi got shitbagged. Edward Klein, yes, she did. They put a knife in her. And, well, you know what's wild about it? She said, you know, even in that, she said it was a risk for me jumping on board to Independent News Network. They got the viewers paid for her, by the way. They paid for a few of these guys, and many of these guys have been axed. Remember when Cenk made a huge announcement about Sean King to join TYT? I do remember that. I remember the huge announcements for Nomi. I remember for Sean King. I remember for a few journalists. Where are they now? Where are they now? And again, the question, I don't think the question is, where did the money go? I was asking that question before, but I don't think that's the right question. I think you can see where the money went. The show is based on views. It's like my show. Like, the number of people who view is the thing where I get revenue for. Not subscribers, but views. And if their view content has taken a hit, which, based on these metrics, unless these metrics are wrong, it has. And if they gave numbers that weren't necessarily on the up and up, meaning if they inflated their books to make their books more appetizing to these investors, well, they need to show value to those investors. Having Nomi on costs money. Having Hannah Cranston on costs money. Having all those other people on costs money. Those are people that they were getting off of their accounting sheet in order to, again, make their books seem more appetizing. They need to show profitability. And workers are expensive. That's what I think this boils down to. I think this extra tier is also evidence that they need to raise more cash. They've had this $10 tier for God knows how long. This tier wasn't always here. TYT Insider. You too can be a TYT Insider. Give us money. We need money. No, don't get me wrong. They're going to make their money off of membership also. Otherwise, they wouldn't, you know, they wouldn't have the tiers at all. I'm just making the point that their views have gone down. And I suspect that has a lot to do with their coverage. Look at this. It's going cratering out. So, I'm just saying. I was hoping Jordan lawsuit was going to force them to open the books. Not so much. They settled. They put it under the rug and they went about their way. Let's see. Anna's appearance is where the money went. Anna's appearance is not where the money went. Remember when Michael Tracy beat the shit out of Cenk on the main show? They got him sent immediately to the back bench because he was left out the panel. I do remember when Cenk came out and put a knife in Tracy about the Russia stuff because Tracy didn't agree with the Russia nonsense. That's another thing. The Russia stuff. They assiduously stuck to the Democratic line on that point. They stuck to the line on that point. So, Let's see, Wesley Walker. What's up? What's up, Wesley? Let's see. Edward Grant Jarvis. Sean King was let go a while ago. Prophet Bain. See, it's funny. They silently let him go. What happened to the $2 million? I thought the $2 million was entire journalists. Even if you were going through money trouble, wouldn't that money be in kind of like a black box in order to keep those journalists there that the audience itself had gave its money to raise? I mean, Jesus Christ, it's been like a year. Capitalism corrupts, absolutely. Meditating Jesus. Look, the thing is, I don't understand why Uyghur can't see it. I don't understand why he can't see it. Like, he can't see it, or maybe he just doesn't want to see it. The argument that he makes is right. Money influences politics. Your bedfellows influences your behavior. The people who are in the room with you whispering in your ear influences your behavior. It just does. Why wouldn't that be true for media also? Why wouldn't that be true for media also? Wesley Walker Jr. Russia, Russia, Russia! Russia, Russia, Russia. Yeah. Apparently their audience, Wesley, wasn't a big fan of that coverage. Look at their views. I mean, don't get me wrong, this is still a lot of views, but Jesus Christ, they cratered. I think it was right here where he was like, vote Hillary, vote Clinton. Bam. Wow. That's brutal, son. That's brutal. That's extremely brutal. Once a group advocates for a deal breaker like Clinton, they can't come back. The Bernie types vote their conscience. Lesser two evil strategies is not viable for them. TYT should know this. When they did that, I thought to myself, oh God, they've just killed their brand. They've killed their brand. You've called yourself Rebel Headquarters. And during that election, they put their guns down and ran in the other direction, screaming, we must fight for the crown. We must fight for the crown. It's amazing. Cynical optimist. I donated to all TYT fundraising. $200 for Jordan, $100 during the second group, and the first TYT studio fundraiser. I donated $400. Once aggressive progressive members only, I got off that train. I was a member of TYT. During the election with Sanders, I was like, I love this coverage. They are kicking ass with Sanders. And the moment that Jake Uyghur got into the camera and said, vote Clinton, I was like, I'm done. Check, please. I'm done. I don't remember the exact point, but I was like, I'm done. At a certain point, I said, I'm done. And it was around the time where he checked out with the whole the Clinton stuff. I think I started donating to Real News Network, if I'm not mistaken. They burn their brand. I don't know if they realize this, but they burn their brand. You're a lefty media network, and your audience is clearly going in one very specific direction. And the show itself says, fuck that, I'm going in the other direction. You've burned your brand. Now, you may think that you did the right political thing, but that's kind of the problem. The audience doesn't believe that you did the right thing from a political standpoint. And even from a business standpoint, you fucked up. You fucked up. Bob Ramirza, when you are a DNC propaganda organ, views are the result, profit is not a factor. Even Dorr did a half hour on millennials leaving the Democrats behind. That is the issue. TYT cannot deliver. It's funny. I wonder, now that they have a $20 million investment from some kind of Democratic hedge fund, are they going to be able to do the shows that they want? And let me give you an example. The company that I worked in last knew that I had a show. Hated the fact that I had the show because they knew that I was against Democrats, and they themselves were outspoken Democrats. The other part to this is, in a meeting with these guys, they were doing something that was, let's say, not necessarily all that ethical. Let's say it that way. Think of for the moment that if McDonald's came up with a sandwich, and McDonald's realized nobody wants to buy this sandwich. So what McDonald's does was advertise the sandwich anyway, but ups the cost of the other hamburgers in order to compensate for the sandwich that nobody wants to buy, essentially forcing people to buy the sandwich that they don't want to buy. When somebody brings up and says, wait a minute, this doesn't sound all that ethical, one of the owners says, what are you, a socialist? What do you mean? Not wanting you to cheat people is socialism? Okay, if that's the way you want to run it. I'm making a point that the types of people that Uyghur are going to be dealing with is people like that. Uyghur is going to be on a leash. I'm sorry. And the idea that he believes he's going to be able to say and do whatever he wants to do. Now, hey, maybe I'm wrong on this. Maybe this is one of those things where Katzenberg is okay with giving them the money because they know the quantity that they're dealing with. It's like Chuck Todd can say whatever Chuck Todd wants to say, but I'm hiring Chuck Todd because I already know what Chuck Todd wants to say. Maybe it's not an issue of the Young Turks wavering in a particular way. Maybe they already understand that they're already the way we want them to be. These guys went out and said, vote Hillary Clinton, and their views plummeted. Their views plummeted. If we raise the cost of the sandwich, sales will pick up. No, Garden, the idea was if we raise the cost of the sandwich, we can put a small amount of cost on these various sandwiches in order to essentially sell the sandwich that nobody wants to buy. They were trying to come up with entice people to buy something or try to find a way to sell a product that nobody wanted. Harlan Sinclair, it also appears that as though they transitioned into neolibs, a certain young hosts were babysat by Manowitz and Shore when Cenk was off. Cenk sold his soul to Katzenberg. Edward Klein, you're assuming that Cenk and Katzenberg weren't already on the same page. You must understand, when we're talking about money in politics, it's twofold. In one part, you may say that the political person is being influenced by the cash, and you could also say that person was already in line with that cash. You must understand, many of these guys are millionaires. Nancy Pelosi has $100 million in the bank. Do you think Nancy Pelosi is going to understand what's taking place in your life in any real material way? The Young Turks are a capitalistic enterprise, and like any other capitalistic enterprise, they need to show profitability. That's what it boils down to. Now, Uyghur is saying that people making arguments of saying, wait a minute, how can you say the political leaders are influenced by cash but you're not? It's nonsensical. That argument made all the sense in the world. What he is specifically talking about is, I have a business to run and I need to raise money for this business. You guys are saying that I shouldn't do that. That's nonsensical. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to keep my business. But that's a second conversation from the standpoint of, will the money that you raise for that business be influential into your decisions? Both of those things can be true. It's not that the argument is nonsensical. It's nonsensical under a model where you're trying to raise money for a business. It's not nonsensical from the argument of, will it influence your behavior, is what a lot of lefties and people in, the TYT audience cares about, if that makes sense. I don't want to toss the baby out the bathwater, but I can't see TYT bouncing back without a big shuffle. Jesus Christ, Carabouth. They can be better. They can be better. That's all I'm getting at. It doesn't have to be this Russia nonsense. That network could be better. And I don't want that network to be a mouthpiece of the Democratic Party, which I think it is. They're sheepdogs. You have a network where you're calling yourself Rebel Headquarters. What does that mean? What does Rebel Headquarters mean? And then you get out there and tell people to vote Hillary Clinton. Rebel Headquarters my ass. More like opposition. Fake opposition. Fake opposition. Arius Stark. I love that name, by the way. Maybe if they had other reporters going around doing what Jordan was doing, covering those stories, unearthing corruption at every turn, then letting him go would have been less suspicious. Yeah, they shouldn't have let Jordan go. You have to stand by your team. You shouldn't have let Jordan go. Dore admitted he's a Democrat. Harlan St. Clair. Who are you talking about? Cenk? I think Cenk would admit he's a Democrat. After all, he got out there to tell you to vote Hillary. Brian Finlay. I love the way Cenk and Anna attacked Dave Rubin for taking money. Pot equals kettle. Garnome. They scam the audience, period. On that alone, they need to go. Scam is a little strong to me. Scam is a little strong to me. They're a network. They're a corporate entity, like any other corporate entity. Of course they're going to try to raise money. But it's a second conversation of whether or not them raising that money is influencing the content that they're putting out. I think that's where people try to get at this at. I'm bringing up this from just the standpoint of a news standpoint. It seems that there are shaky finances. That's all. And I would argue that the evidence kind of does lean in that direction. TYT should take up an Ocasio approach. What is that? What is the Ocasio approach? seriously, I do wish I never donated money to TYT now in hindsight, Edward Klein. Yeah, you know, I was telling my wife about this. I was like, hey, an anonymous source told me XYZ. And she saw us walking out the room laughing. I was like, what? And I was trying to make the point to her, I don't have any issue with TYT. My issue has to do with the tilt that the media organization has taken. It seems to be different. That's all. It seems to have changed. Now, that change could be because Trump is in office, but it seems to just be a sheepdog organization that kind of, it's like, it's almost as if they say, look, you can be angry and upset, but at the end of the day, just vote Democrat. You can be angry and upset, but channel all that anger into the party itself. You must stay in the party apparatus. So, when Sanders lost, his job was to go out and say, vote Clinton, and make his audience believe it and do it. His audience didn't like it and didn't particularly buy it. They just got partnership for exclusive content for YouTube TV and some other channel. I think they are fine. Then why are they firing off their staff? Then why are they firing their staff? They do way more good. Why do you criticize TYT? It's like you're obsessed. Mitt Mumo. I criticize TYT because the content that they were putting out, in your mind, they do more good. I think they put out some issues, yes. I also think that they've told people that they should have voted for Hillary Clinton, which I think is horrible and wrong. And they've been pushing this Russian nonsense for God knows how long. So I criticize it. Because if you're calling yourself this kind of mouthpiece of a progressive network, and the main thing that you could talk about is Donald Trump, when a lot of the problems that plague us are in the party itself that they're telling people to vote for, I have issues with it. Yeah. Is TYT going to come out and tell people to vote for Joe Manchin, for example? Are they? Chunk, God bless George W. Bush Poker. I know that sounds absolutely insane, and people probably scoff at me saying this, but TYT have actually become pro-government corruption and advocates for criminality and federal law enforcement. Wow, that's amazing. Careful Jamal, though, since lately, like Jimmy, you sheepdog waffle back and forth, get off the pot or shit. What are you talking about? I haven't waffled anything. If you think I'm waffling, you've misunderstood something that I've said along the way. My policy has never changed. Vote for the person who represents your interests. If I was in New York, I would have happily voted for Ocasio-Cortez. In Virginia, I didn't have anybody to vote for. That's not waffling. That's straightforward. You can't change a system by using the same system to change it. So then, taking this money is not changing the system. The moment Trump won, a lot of the libs' rational brain turned off. Cal, yes. Yes. Look, I know some people think TYT does more good than not. Maybe. I like the fact that for the last X number of years, there was a network that was pushing this stuff. So, do not misunderstand me at all. But can it be better? Yes. Is pushing this Russian nonsense productive? No. No, it's not. It's not at all. And they've assiduously pushed this into what they consider to be lefty circles. So yeah, I'm critical of the network itself. I'm critical of the network. And yeah, they made a new deal, but at the end of the day, they still need to show profitability. Which means that at the end of the day, before anything else, they're a capitalistic enterprise. One or two things is true. One or two things is true. TYT is MSNBC Light. Yeah, that's what I think. I think they're MSNBC Light. Yeah, I think they're MSNBC Light. Now, there's no issue with that if that's what they, represent themselves to be. But don't tell me you're rebel headquarters. Don't tell me you're rebel headquarters. And then come out later telling me to vote for Hillary Clinton. That's the opposite of rebel headquarters. That's the opposite. All right. I'm not going to keep this one all that long. At least much longer. Let me ask you this. Counterfactual, alternative history. These people can't just sell these popular ideas. They have to believe in them. Wesley Walker Jr. These people can't just sell these popular ideas. They have to believe in them. Wesley, that goes to the Ocasio-Cortez thing. Like I always make the point that there's a difference in somebody who believes in something versus somebody who's just trying to sell it. So Christian Gillibrand will say, yeah, we need to get rid of ICE. Or Kamala Harris, in her campaign thing comes up and surprises her staff by saying, yeah, I'm supporting Medicare for all. Ha! Medicare for all. Yeah, that's what I'm supporting. You either believe in it or you don't. It's something that digs in you. It's not a choice that you need to make. You know it. You get up in the morning, you know it. You go to bed at night, and you know it. People should have access. Not just access. It's a human right. If we as a society can provide it, it's a human right. You don't need to be pushed on it. It's your bearing. It's how you operate under normal circumstances. There's a difference between trying to push something versus actually believing in it. Yes, Wesley. Agreed. Cynical Optimist. TYT is not your obsession. Honest critique of TYT Network is mitzvah to the people. Look, some people just don't like me criticizing it because they like TYT. That's all. And if you look at the number of videos I do on TYT versus everything else, it's like one within the course of like several months. So yeah, it's fucking insane. Look, let's take a counterfactual for the moment, an alternative history. Sanders is being cheated. TYT, the network, instead of Jake Uger coming out saying vote Hillary, because after all, Hillary lost. Now, the catch is, this is a double negative for TYT. Not only did the candidate they pushed for lost, they went against their audience to push for the candidate that lost. Both of those things are problematic. Beyond that point, what if, though, they didn't do that? What would happen if they would have came out and said, look, democracy matters more. You cheated our candidate. He was in a representative government. You cheated our candidate. We're not going to back you on this. What would have happened? That's real rebel headquarters. And I would almost guarantee you that his audience would have been perfectly in alignment with that disposition and that position. What do you think? You get more from the position of, no, we're not taking this. We're not accepting this. Or putting your weapons down, taking your helmets off, and running in the other direction, screaming, God save the Queen. Which one is it? I'm making my point that their influence would have been enhanced by saying we are actual rebel headquarters, as opposed to, again, putting their weapons down, running in the other direction, God save the Queen. So, just saying. Now, and again, I put some of this stuff under anonymous source, but looking for evidence for what the source said. I mean, look at this. I mean, let's be honest. They are bleeding their staff. Their viewership has gone down. And yeah, they've recently signed an agreement, but why are they bleeding their staff? Nomi was a fucking awesome reporter. Amazing at her job. Loved her job. Easy to look at. It's a win-win on all cylinders. And they got rid of her. She clearly didn't want to go. So, just saying. Rubble headquarters. Rubble with an R. I don't want to see them destroyed. I just want to see them changed. There's a difference in those things. I just want to see them changed. Covering Trump and Russia to the obscene degree that they've covered Trump and Russia. Come on. The issues that affect us and plague us go beyond Trump and Russia. There has to be more, as opposed to being sucked up into this particular hysteria. And yet, that's where we are. Even going so far as the lefty network, the quote-unquote lefty network, Cenk Uygur, having to tell people he's deeply progressive. Think about that. We're having a conversation. In the middle of a conversation, I have to say, hey, I'm deeply progressive. Yeah, okay. Okay. The same guy who's hollering about Nerf bombs. That bombs going off in other countries aren't that big of a deal. Yeah, I criticize TYT. They should be criticized. Cenk Uygur's behavior over the past has been abysmal. And again, it's not just me that's criticizing him. Whether you want to pretend that the people don't care or not, his audience, his views have taken a hit. You think they took a hit because of my criticism, or you think they took a hit because of what they saw as flaws and failures in the network to live up to a lefty standard? So, don't ever let them jank you off. Dirty hands. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. All right, I'm gonna end this here. I don't have a when they were in the primaries, love that network. Like their coverage of Sanders was bar none the best, because the other networks have essentially written him off. Their election coverage was bar none some of the best. The problem came when Sanders lost, and they're washing their hands of him and going full into this Hillary mode, when their audience knew that they had been cheated. So, just, it's not just my complaints. If I am making the complaint, I guarantee you there's a lot of other people who are also feeling the same way. Hey Jamal, just saying hello. Who is this? Dan Campbell. Dan, thank you, Dan. I appreciate it. Guys, all of the help to the show always helps, whether it's Super Chat or Patreon. It helps keep the show ticking along. I've been incapacitated for the past few days, and I always feel some kind of way when I'm incapacitated, because I feel like I should be doing shows. If people like the show enough to help donate and contribute, I feel the need to do a show. So I guess this is kind of an apology for being ill, because the illness was my fault. I've had surgeries on my stomach, multiples. It was called bowel resections, where they would take sections and fuse them back together. No issue with that. The world is great. Problem is, there's certain foods that I don't necessarily tolerate well, and it's unfortunate those foods I love. I can't control myself with them. My wife and mom oftentimes would do this thing of, look, we're going to give you this small bag of these. We're going to keep the rest, because we don't trust you with these, because we don't want you to end up in the hospital. Well, I ended up buying a bunch of hazelnuts, Brazilian nuts, and something else. No issue the night of. The next day, however, I'm doubled over in a ton of pain and wasn't able to essentially do the show. So, that's my fault. The injury was my fault. I can't blame anybody else. It was on me. Not having self-control. So I always feel some kind of way when I'm not able to do the show. But I want to thank you guys for showing up. And Dan Campbell, thank you very much. I guess this is my point of saying thank you. I appreciate you guys helping the show. Marsha Smith, also again, Marsha Smith, thank you. Balthazar, TYT isn't Rebel headquarters, they're Cloud City. Oh, it's a trap. Hashtag is a trap. Just wait until they go full Spaceballs and give Anna back her nose. Oh, that's wrong. That's wrong. Give Anna back her old nose. Oh, that's wrong. That's wrong. Oh, that's so wrong. That's so wrong. Marsha Smith, just a little extra love from your patrons. I totally understand stomach issues because I have them too. Oh, thank you, Marsha. I appreciate it. Nash, that's nuts. That's funny. And painful. Do you know my stomach still hurts today? It's been like 3 days and I am still in pain. I've been taking pain meds, but Jesus Christ. Give her back her old nose is brutal, Balthazar. It's funny, but brutal. Funny, but brutal. Are y'all serious? She had a nose thing? I'm not gonna rag. I'm not gonna go in her nose. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true. And even if it is, so what? So what? She had a nose job. So what if she had a nose job? And I'm saying I don't even know if that's true. You're saying give her back her old nose. It's a near future cities will be roach motels, Zox Obix, the way things are going. American Insurgent Bane, well, we'll all be losing again and again. I said not criticize, but at this point, it's whining. Yeah, I'm not going to rag on that woman's nose. It's a legitimate criticism. Prophet Bane. Terrorists or moderate rebels. Perspective is the one that chooses. Look, my criticism of TYT goes beyond the finances. It goes more into the coverage. It's the coverage. And whether you realize it or not, there are a lot of people like me that feel some kind of way about the way their network has changed. It's not just me. Always take good care, Jamal. Cool Blue 71. Thank you, Cool Blue. I try. I don't always succeed. I try. Do you consider Cal Calencia progressives? Momi. Yeah, I like Cal. I like Cal a lot. Don't misunderstand me when I'm saying this. I'm talking about the main show. Love Cal, love Door. Love Cal and Door. Anna may have to go back to doing ASMR for those who crave abuse. Big crackdown on pain pill pushers today. Hurl Hedge, yeah. It's not just today. It's been for the past, several months. That's a whole story by itself. Like, well, my doctor and I had this conversation. We was talking about the crackdown on trying to get people who actually need paid medication the paid medication. Like, some people forget that in wars, that a lot of people who get hit are just completely innocent. Well, in the same way of making this kind of a quote-unquote drug war and going after pharmaceuticals, they've also gone after doctors. Even in cases where doctors are just prescribing pain medication, where they're supposed to be prescribing pain medication, they put a shackle on doctors to some degree. The Democrats are paid to fail. Let me make one more point. The Democratic Party, it's natural solution. My part of my issue with TYT also is, again, MSNBC light. It's the more rowdy brother of MSNBC. Now the question to you is that what you want? Or do you want something that's actually pro-labor? They are pro-labor up to a point, but he is a capitalist. This is a capitalistic enterprise. His argument of saying it's nonsensical to say that he shouldn't be raising cash, well, that's a capitalist argument. The argument makes perfect sense. It is nonsensical to a capitalist to tell him that he shouldn't be able to raise money for his company. Now, that's true under that context. It is also true under the context of people looking at it saying, but doesn't have money influence behavior? You told me money influence behavior. Why are you somehow separate from this? Both of those things are true. Does the coverage that has been taking place on TYT, is it representative of that donation? I don't think so. I think Jink is a capitalist. I think that his views lined up with Katzenberg's, and so the thing worked. That's what I think. I don't know that to be true. Money could have influenced behavior, but I don't know. I don't know. Then he thought he had a choice of Trump and Hillary after. Look, all I'm saying is he shouldn't have said vote Hillary. That's a double fail. Not only did she lose, you ran a loser Donald segment for like 100 days straight. Oh, man. I voted Stein. I voted Stein too. Yeah. They just want to have a nastier, I think you're saying nastier capitalism that doesn't solve the fundamental problem our society has. Also foreign policy and Western imperialism. Yes, agreed. Corporate Democrats are in Democrats to stop the left. From Clinton to other corporate Democrats, it's lucrative business to do so. Agreed, which is kind of my point. This idea that they're going to board the ship and change the party, I'm not seeing it. Like Ocasio-Cortez, that's a big, big win. And so is the win for Dana Balter. She has to win her election, but still, from a lefty, winning that is big. Is it me? I don't see the boarding of the ship. And if there's a blue wave where you're just putting a bunch of corporate hacks back into office, that just takes us back to 2008 or 2000. I can't remember when Nancy Pelosi took the leadership position. I don't remember what it was. TYT uses all mainstream news sources. Yeah, but I think my point is, during the primaries, they were devout in their support of Sanders. If you look back at I watched them religiously during the primaries. And my point to this is, there was a period where Anna was like, I'm not voting for Clinton. And then you get to the end, Anna's full-throated Clinton supporter, where she's blasting everybody that decided not to vote for Clinton. This is an amazing transformation over the course of a period of time. I'm saying the transformation is problematic for their audience. That's all. It's problematic for their audience. Beltesar, with how they treated Nomi and others, I'm starting to second-guess all of their claims on George Sheridan. Anna did have a nose job. I was simply continuing the Star Wars Spaceballs track. Fair enough. I didn't know that. I don't watch TYT, so I didn't know it. And I'm greatly uncomfortable with talking about somebody's nose job. I don't know why. It feels like you're ragging on a physical feature. The DNC will work against Ocasio. Yes, they will. Mouse C. That's the other point. She's fighting the party. She's going to have to fight the party. But with the DCCC back Cortez after she beat their guy, Harold Hedge, they don't have a choice but to. Honestly, I would be shocked if they didn't support her. They're going to have to bring her closer because the media and everything else has made this woman a star. You've even had Morning Joe, establishment mouthpiece, coming on saying, this woman has a message and this woman is where the party needs to go. They're not going to have a choice but to hug her. Now, the question is not whether they're going to support her during the election process. No. The question is, does she fundamentally change what the party is? And I would argue that she was going to be running and fighting the party. I think she's going to be marginalized. Now, that assumes that you don't have... And there are two scenarios. Assume for the moment that a lefty, a real lefty, gets in from the president as president. What is different at that point? Because at that point now you have run-of-the-mill Democrats who have to explain why they're not on board for the president's lefty, I guess you can say, platform. Meaning those Democrats are going to have to rebuff their lefty president, which I think they're too spineless to really do. In the second scenario, you have some kind of corporate hack that wins, in which case, yeah, she's going to be marginalized. They would use her to the degree where she needs to be used to beef up their kind of lefty bona fides, but ultimately it would purely just boil down to this aspect of the machine. Yeah. A lot of this is going to boil down to how Ocasio herself is going to deal with this particular dynamic. And the last thing is, Trump wins again, then yes, she can be as lefty as she want to be, because at the end of the day, you have Trump and Republicans in office. Nothing can take place. 3 scenarios. We will see how it goes. We will see how it goes. Imagine Hillary Clinton running again, certified lunatic if she does. Adam McDougal, there's no way she'll run. Like, I know a lot of these people like to defend Clinton, but when you get to the people who are in her staff, who are writing books like Shattered and all, they couldn't. Yeah, we'll see. I'm seriously doubting that would take place. I'm seriously doubting that Clinton would run again. They would hug her, invite her to tea. When she declines, they would call her crazy. I think she's more politically astute than that. And I'm talking about Ocasio. I just think she is. I think she's far more political savvy than a lot of lefties who tend to run. That's going to create problems for her base, only if her base allows that to create problems. I'll explain what I mean on another one. You're magnify the anti-TYT trolls that troll their channel with this type of title. Oh, I see what you mean, Edward Davis. I see what you mean. I don't mean to troll their channel, because I don't hate TYT. I just wish they were different. I just wish they were different. I just feel like they had this opportunity to be better. And again, if those trolls exist, I'm not coming at this from the right. I'm coming at this more so from the left. And again, I don't think I'm the only one. I don't think you get a viewership decline in this way. And those trolls that you're talking about, those trolls may exist. But is it possible that some of those trolls, a percentage of those trolls, used to actually like TYT? Do you honestly believe that I'm a singleton? Do you feel like I'm the only one who feel this way? I was somebody who was an avid viewer during the primaries. And after the primaries, I'm done. And not just I'm done, I found that them to be somewhat destructive of the left. Screaming Trump and Russia. And trying to go after anybody who questioned the narrative of events that the Democratic Party was trying to push out. Yeah, I'm antagonistic towards the network, but from the left. I don't know what the right-wingers say about it. I don't care what the right-wingers say about it. What I do care about is people of my ilk that are similar to me, that have had that same repulsion at what they've become. Yeah, I think a lot of us are bothered by it. And I don't think it's crazy for us to say anything about it. Baltazar, I could never take the condescending impersonations from both Cal and Jenk as if it's not a true parody of a particular person. It's just strawmanning. I also hate the anaphrase, keep it real. Jimmy Dore is brilliant. Momi, yes, that's true. And Baltazar, I don't like the condescension either. And also a lot of that stuff is strawmanning. You're right. You're right. The trolls exist, but it's not like Jamal has made his channel anti. Yeah, that's the other thing. I don't do videos on this constantly. This is not a constant stream of TYT hate. So keep the shit real. Just because someone has a criticism of TYT doesn't necessarily mean they're a TYT troll. And if you look back, I may have videos here and there, but the overwhelming sea of my content has nothing to do with TYT. I find everything about does not scream working class. Here's the thing. I just think the network is... Look, I think the network is further to the left than MSNBC. That's why I call them MSNBC Light. I think they're capitalists who are just pushing for more modest degree of capitalism. That's what I think. When I call them MSNBC like, people take that as an insult. Why is that an insult if that's what they try to be? I mean, come on. Let's be honest. Keep it real. Keep it real. You don't like that saying, Baltazar? I say it all the time. And Baltazar, to be fair, people may hate my saying of saying be honest. Now, I don't mean be honest from the standpoint that the person is lying to me. I mean be intellectually honest about what's being said. I would imagine Anna, keep it real is in the same vein. I imagine it's being in the same vein. Those numbers show that happened. Sanders won elections in early March, and they changed tone as ordered. Viewers switched off. It's not just me. That's my point. It's not just me. It's not just me. So, yeah, I love Cal and Jimmy. Aw, Jim Hyde and Jamal. Thank you guys. I like Cal too. I like Jimmy too. I like Cal too. Yeah, my goal is not to be a troll. You can like TYT and Jimmy Dore at the same time, people. I only hated when Anna would use it when she lied. Oh, I see what you mean, Balthazar. Perseus Go, Jamal, if you found yourself in Toronto, would you let me take you out for an expensive night on the town in exchange for a film debate on universal basic income? Perseus Go, you want to debate me on UBIs? Yes, I would take you up on that. I would take you up on that. You'll lose that debate, but I'll take you up on that. Just saying. You won't win that debate. You know what's funny? I had a conversation when I was at the Left Forum, the night where I had all those mojitos and kind of was just put out of commission. I had a conversation with the guy who wrote the book on universal basic income. And I asked him a slew of questions being devil's advocate. Now, mind you, I already agree with him because I think UBI is necessary. The question really becomes how much of that UBI? What's the amount that you give to make sure people have a decent living standard? By the same token, if you give too much, people are not, you're going to create this incentive where they don't really have to do anything. The goal is to find what that number is. The goal is to find what that number is. Chink answered your political arm and media network question on TYT. I'd say you were a necessary pessimistic left on the left of TYT. Wait a minute, say that one more time. Cenk answered your political arm or media network question on TYT. I'd say you were a necessary pessimistic left on the left of TYT. That's fair. That's fair. Look, I'm beyond this thing of these kind of assuming that somebody is being straightforward. Beyond it. Beyond it. We've done that from the standpoint of politics for God knows how long, and look where that has gotten us. Done. Now, TYT has just so happened to be on the political left. Great. I think they're to the left of the Democratic Party. That's true. That is true. But what does it mean if at the end of the day you're still telling people to just vote for the Democrat? Is TYT going to push his audience to vote for Joe Manchin? That's what I want to know. I don't have an answer to that question. That's what I absolutely really want to know. Oh, wow. Cool Blue. If Democrats win the United States population vote for the United States House by 7, they would flip it. Since 1940s, in House flipping midterms, 3 plus 3.5 seats flipped. If Democrats win the United States population vote for... Let's flip it so you can see. I'm reading. If Democrats win the U.S. population vote for the United States House and Senate by plus 7, they would flip it, meaning they could potentially take the House. Since 1940s, in the House of Representatives flipping midterms, a plus 3.5 seats flipped with each nationally shifted percentage point. 2016 Republicans won the United States House by plus 1. 2018 Democrats must shift plus 8 to reach 7. Would yield 28 seats picked up. So what do you think, Cool Blue? You think you're going to do it? You think they're going to be able to pull it off? Thank you, Cool Blue. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. And Jim Hyden, also, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Once the government has become corrupt as our government has, left and right are meaningless. And maybe that's my angst with that. If I'm being honest, I do have this kind of weird emotional thing that bugs me against TYT, and I don't always know what that is, if that makes sense, of being honest about it. I think, though, it has to do with what I consider to be a change in the network. And this is not just me. This is what I'm saying. I've seen Twitter threads where people, long threads, and I've even covered this on the show, where they were like, we used to love it. Something has changed. Something has changed. We've tried to contact them. Nope. Yeah, I think something has changed. You have a lot of people who think something has changed in that network. They have corporate masters. Listening to Jamal is icing on the cake, but action is required to get the cake. Meaning, it's great to debate, talk, listen. You want a cake, gotta get the baking. Love that. Laura H. I love that. I love that. I love that. If you want a cake, get the baking. I love that. Tim Flowbug, American Insurgent, why are you defending him so much? Yeah, he's feeling some kind of way, big time. What did he say? Chink didn't want to sit there and complain that Bernie didn't win that night to take down Trump. If it was up to him, he would have had Bernie up there. He tirelessly worked for Bernie. Dude, you're missing it. You're missing what I'm saying. It's not about working for Bernie. You're a media network. As a media network, you're also this kind of political arm of sorts. Meaning there's this odd accumulation of media and politics. They're not just one or the other. There's some weird collaboration of both. They own it as being a weird collaboration of both. Meaning they're into politics and media. It's not just one or the other. Sanders versus Clinton became the main race. Many people who were on the Sanders side, who were, mind you, devout followers of TYT, understood they were being cheated. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? One of the political parties took it upon themselves to gut and cheat another element of the party. Now, you, rebel headquarters, who are supposed to represent those people, what do? What you do is you come out and say, vote Hillary. Now, what do you expect the audience to do when they're hearing the person who's supposed to be in charge of rebel headquarters drop their guns, take off their helmets, and go scream, God save the Queen! God save the Queen! Who wants to fight in the revolution? God save the Queen! It's like, come on. That's why I'm pushing this so much. Because the fact is, your audience didn't want that. If you're the avatar of the will of your audience, and your audience is absolutely against what you're saying here, how are you the avatar of their will? How? That's what I'm getting at. I'm getting at this thing of, what do you actually represent? And in this particular case, your audience wanted you to represent them and wanted you to represent a particular point of view, and you didn't do it. You represented the point of view of the person who cheated a large share of your audience. So yeah, I'm putting pressure on that network from that standpoint. I suspect my angst starts there. I suspect it starts there. You can defend them all you want, but ultimately, it doesn't matter that Uyghur was toiling tirelessly for Sanders. It's his network! What is he supposed to do? Play with cats? He was covering what his network and his audience wanted him to cover. He's getting no credit for that. That's like somebody saying, I took care of my kids. Good. You took care of your kids. Great. Gold star. Gold star. Because, come on. Be honest. Keep it real. As Anna would say. If we can get Justice Democrats to advocate for working class policies, we can create organizations for UFO movements as well. Oh, dude, you're going to throw me on a tangent. You're going to throw me on a tangent. I love my audience. Fucking love my audience. It's only in this chat, I don't know this as a flat fact, but I'm going to say it anyway, where you can have a conversation that starts on TYT that goes from Ocasio-Cortez and from a conversation about TYT end up on UFOs. Fucking A audience. I love this audience. Wesley Walker. Wesley, thank you, man. Wesley, you know you're always appreciated, man. And by the way, Civilization, Galactic Civilization, or XCOM, the challenge is out there. Now, I'm putting this out there. So, people know that I love playing strategy games. And recently, XCOM 2, Galactic Civilization, and Civ are some of my favorites. So, Xbox One for Civilization, In Your Tail is my gamer tag. There's no story behind it. I've had that gamer tag for like 10 years. I was at a different place in my life. I like competition. But my point is, it's open. If you guys want to play, let me know. And Wesley, thank you very much. And of course, Cool Blue, thank you very much. Cenk also made a shameless semantic accusation that if you don't vote for Hillary against Trump, then you aren't really a progressive. Dan Campbell. Wow, that's even worse. That's even worse. Yeah. I guess my feeling is they were shilling. I want a shirt saying I love my audience. Yep. GMO. I don't know what GMO stands for. Look, all I'm saying is people aren't crazy for taking issue with that. And the idea, you may not like that criticism, but come on, you have to be honest. That criticism is genuine. Do you honestly believe that all of these people just started disliking TYT for shits and giggles? That there was no reason, that they felt some kind of way, that they felt like they were cheated by a particular party, and then TYT sided with the party that cheated them? You don't see any issue with that at all. You see no issue with that. So yes, I take issue with that big time. I take issue with it big time. All right. I'm going to end this one because I have a few other videos to do today, and I don't want this one to go, well, shit, we're in an hour. Jordan messed up like we all do at times. I'm not dropping him. I'm not dropping him either. I like Jordan. Trina be fine. They jumped on the voter shaming bandwagon, shaming their own audience. Trina be fine. And again, I'm showing this again for like the 15th time. This is not just me saying it. The audience didn't like it. The audience didn't like it. It's not just me. The audience didn't like it. I am one ember in a large fire. And I'm making this point of saying that just because I have a network or a show where I can kind of present this, there are a lot of other people who are like me who have massive qualms at the way that they've organized their network. And now they're firing really good people. And the question becomes, why are they firing really good people? Right here. This. Total views per month. Would this undermine income? If you're based on views, I would say the answer is yes. Alright. I'm going to end this. Just do the video on the stream and cut it out later. I don't know the video off the top of my head, Cal. I don't have it off the top of my head. Well, when my Twitter account, what I end up doing is I tend to go down and push videos on Twitter. And, well, actually, I think I do know. So the video I'm probably going to do next has to do with jumping across the pond to Brexit. In fact, no. This one is queued up. I could do this one. This one goes back in time. United States funds terror groups to sow chaos in Iran. This is February 2007. The United States is secretly funding, it's not all that secret if the newspaper has it, militant ethnic separatist groups in Iran in an attempt to pile pressure on the Islamic regime to give up its nuclear weapons. Now, if you remember, what the Obama administration ended up doing was getting the Iran deal. This Iran deal was actually a good deal. I think it was a good deal. We, Western countries, should have no say-so over whether or not Iran develops nuclear capacity for generators and all this other stuff. It's up to them. They have the capacity, or they have just as much right to develop nuclear technology as we do. But the Western countries don't agree to this. Israel can have nuclear weapons, but if Iran tries to see to its security, we don't like that. Not so much. We want you to be in a more docile position where we can attack you and you can't do anything in response. This is an amazing headline. Like, think about what's being said here. We are literally funding terrorist organizations to sow chaos. Recently, Iranian newspapers. This is not going to work. I usually have this stuff already lined up before I do a show. I am going to have to cut it and then bring back the other items for the show. But there's one thing. Dave Rubin. So Dave Rubin is the pompous SOB that used to be part of the Young Turks. And in being part of the Young Turks, he, at some point, became a conservative. Now, he considers himself this kind of faux intellectual, allowing people to spew utter nonsense without him really pushing back on it. The main conversation that I remember him when I first stumbled onto him, you can say, kind of like stumbling over vomit on the side of a street, was him having a conversation with Milo. In this conversation, Milo goes on to talk about Bernie Sanders in really disgusting and repugnant ways that have no tether to reality at all. And Ruben just sits there, listening, not really giving a response about this, and moving on to the next topic. And it's an amazing thing to see. And yet, this is Dave Rubin and his show. Anna has is in a more emphatic moment, is explaining why Dave Rubin and the Young Turks parted ways. Let's take a listen to her. For this, I found this to be an amazing thing, because she was really pissed off about what was taking place. And I'll cut this later and to make it into 2 videos.
Truth about why he left the Young Turks. He wanted to make a 6-figure salary to host a 30-minute a week Young Turks. Result, I refuse to engage in a debate or an argument.
Do my homework. And I know that David Duke is a monster, and that if you're going to have a discussion with him, you have to actually rebut what he says, and you have to come with actual facts. And
nice hour-long interviews, and Milo was able to say whatever he wanted to Dave Rubin. So that's what real journalist is. I mean, that's a real intellectual. No, it's lazy. It's because you don't know anything. It's because debating with your guests. It's just important that he become as big as he was because the media just kept having him on, right? They kept giving him a platform. And so I want to address one other thing, because I think it's important. Media, journalism, all of that, right, is important. And I'm not saying that because of what we do. I think that it's incredibly important to fact check the people that you have on your show. And that's not because I'm a fan of arguing or debating with your guests. It's just important that if you have a platform and you're allowing someone to say whatever it is that they want to say, you don't want half-truths, misinformation, lies to get out there in the public. But there's this whole notion now that it's a very intellectual thing to just allow people to come on your show and say whatever they want without challenge.
I agree with Anna on this. But God damn it, Balthazar, I'm looking at her nose now as she's making this point. Fucking asshole, Balthazar. Let's let her finish. But I agree with what she's saying on this. Let's keep going.
Challenging them. That's what real journalist is. I mean, that's a real intellectual. No, it's lazy. It's because you don't know anything. It's because you're nothing more than an intellectual lightweight, okay? And a perfect example of that is Dave Rubin. So I've been quiet about Dave Rubin for years, but I know Dave Rubin probably better than anyone else in this company because we were very close friends, okay? Went to dinner at his house every weekend until all of a sudden he's not liberal anymore. All of a sudden, after getting some funding from the Koch brothers, he's now a libertarian. We'll get to that in just a second, but the reason why I have such a huge problem with Dave Rubin.
Whoa! Whoa! Are you disparaging him because of his funding source? Whoa! What the fuck? Are you disparaging that man because of the funding source? What the fuck is taking place? Maybe I'm in a warped reality. What am I missing? I hope that fund that was raised $27 increments otherwise is shockingly corrupt. Uyghur dismissed the argument, saying he was greatly amused by the lack of reason among his critics. He said the network would remain committed to removing big money from politics, adding that he didn't see the investment as corrupting the network's political coverage or bent. I suppose that's not true for Rubin. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Glass house. That's all I'm saying. Glass house. Throwing a really large stone. It's not so much. Look, let me explain this point. It's not so much that I completely disagree with her. I actually do agree with her. But I believe that money influences content in the same way I believe money influences politics. When I do stories, when I'm doing my YouTube channel, the moment that this becomes somewhat of a business for me, I have to be aware of the stories that I do. Meaning, the stories that I do have to at the very least be interesting to an audience. You look at the people after the election themselves. Some people changed their platform in order to go in a particular route because they found a vein of people who would vote for them or who would love their content. So you can go, to 100,000 views in the course of a few months if you maybe bash Clinton. I don't want to do that. I didn't necessarily want to go one specific vein. I wanted my audience to just grow naturally based on who I was. Not saying they're wrong, not saying I'm right. It was just what I wanted to do versus what somebody else were perfectly okay with doing. But I believe that the money influences people's behavior on this because people need to live. Does the used car salesman sell you a lemon if his family is going to go hungry if he doesn't make that sale? He could be the nicest person on the planet. He could be God-fearing and everything else. He's selling you that lemon because he's not going to allow his kid to go hungry. Same difference. I mean, ultimately, you have media networks that are capitalistic institutions that need to maximize their profit. And the people who are giving them the money want a return on their investment. Or, at the very least, a mouthpiece to push certain views onto the world. You're ragging on Rubin just in this very specific way. This specific attack. Not talking about other stuff, because I actually, to some degree, agree with her. On this point that the money may have influenced his behavior or have been one of the pretexts for a change to this kind of libertarian philosophy or whatever. I don't call it philosophy. It's just greed or philosophical reasoning for greed. But I don't think you can throw the stone. I'm sorry. I mean, there's a difference between the Democratic Party versus, I would argue, what the left considers itself to be, even though the left hasn't accrued around any particular idea of what it is. And if there's a difference between the Democratic Party and what the left considers itself to be, I would argue there's a difference between maybe Dave Rubin being a Democrat versus him being a Libertarian. He was able to make the change because the money was coming to him. That may be true. But I'm saying, doesn't the same apply to what TYT has changed after the election? That's all. The change could be a natural permutation of Donald Trump is in office and we're kind of adjusting to the fact that Trump is in office. That may be true, but people who look at it may also come to the conclusion that the $20 million that you got, to some degree, tweaked your content. Just saying, that's a pretty goddamn large stone to throw in a pretty profoundly large glass house.
Rubin is because he's had Milo Yiannopoulos on his show twice, hour-long interviews, and Milo was able to say whatever he wanted to say without any pushback from Dave Rubin, including anti-Semitic remarks. Here's an example.
Well, let me take the ultimate example, what remains the big taboo in society, which is anti-Semitism, right? Most of the generation Trump, the alt-right people, the people who like me, they're not anti-Semites. They don't care about Jews. They may have some assumptions about Jews. They may have some prejudice about Jews, like the Jews run everything. Well, we do. The Jews run all the banks. Well, we do. The Jews run the media. Well, we do. I mean, they're right about all that stuff. Now, what you do with that is the issue. But the reason they go on about...
I don't even know where to start with that, so just go.
We do. It's a fact. This is not in debate. It's a statistical fact. Jews run most of the banks. Jews completely dominate the media, vastly disproportionately represented in all of these professions. That's just a fact. It's not anti-Semitic to point out statistics. But you seem to have you've missed what you agree with me on feminism. Like, it's not sexist to point out statistics. I'm suggesting to you it's not anti-Semitic to point out that these things are true. Now, the anti-Semitism on the internet.
Okay, that's not remotely true. That's not a stat. That's not a fact. And if you want to see how someone challenges that deeply anti-Semitic trope, watch my interview with David Duke, where I shred him. And every time he mentions a Jewish banker, I mention a non-Jewish banker. Why? Because I actually bothered to do my homework. And I know that David Duke is a monster, and that if you're going to have a discussion with him, you have to actually rebut what he says, and you have to come with actual facts. And what does Dave Rubin do? I don't know what to say about that. Just go.
No, it's actually worse than that. Dave Rubin sells it as, I'm far more intellectual, and as a result, I refuse to engage in a debate or an argument. I allow people to make their case on my show. No, you're lazy. He was lazy when he worked here. He's lazy now with his ridiculous show where he proves time and time again that he doesn't know anything. And why do I know he's lazy? Why did he really leave the Young Turks? Can I please finally tell the truth about why he left the Young Turks? He wanted to make a 6-figure salary to host a 30-minute-a-week show when everyone here, because we work for an independent independent news company was getting paid far less while working 12-hour days. That's why Dave Rubin left the company. And now all of a sudden he's getting funded by the Koch brothers, and all of a sudden his opinions are very different. He has no political identity. He is not an honest actor. He is not an intellectual. He is a fraud. Plain and simple, and he's giving platforms to people like Milo Yiannopoulos on his crappy show. That's who Dave Rubin is.
Wow. Wow. That's brutal. That is brutal. That is brutal. That is completely brutal. Jesus Christ. That is utterly brutal. Yeah, there's nothing to say about that, man. She has some serious feelings about Rubin. She's got some serious feelings. I don't know what she's paid, but I suspect that she's probably right. They're indie news network. I would imagine that they probably say to themselves, and they take certain hits to themselves from the standpoint of what they can earn or whatever else. And so if Rubin is trying to make all that cash in this network, I would imagine he'll have feelings about it. So, the Ashir Carson, the more you work, the less you earn. That's a modern fact. The more you work, the less you earn. They argue that Jen can give air to David Duke and David Rubin is a hack for Milo. No, Harlan, their issue with it was that in that video, there was nothing. I mean, there was no pushback. Like, Milo would just spew stuff and Rubin was just sitting there. I remember I've seen maybe 2 or 3 episodes of Rubin's show. I saw the one with Milo where he was talking about Sanders and Rubin just kind of sat there like nothing was being said. But he was saying just really nasty stuff. And it's like, oh, there's no pushback. Uyghur is making the point that when David Duke came on the show, there was pushback. He actually pushed back on his particular position. That's what he's trying to make the point. The more you work, the more you earn for your boss. That's true. Now, Cenk pushed back on Duke to show Duke was a fool. GMO, right. That's my point. He's trying to say that what's his name didn't. They just kind of sit there and let him spew that stuff. Yeah. It presents from people who like them. Rubin might dislike Anna's new nose. Oh, that's wrong, Bernard. That's wrong, Bernard. It's funny. After Balthazar said it, I'm looking at her nose like, is that nose different? Is that nose different? It's a great job if it is a nose job. She's done a fucking awesome nose. Milo's an utter dipshit. Yes, he is. He's a disgusting human being. Duke was on TYT. Yeah, David Duke was on TYT. Cal, I don't agree, though. It's an interview talk show. It's not like a debate show. That's the point of a show. It's just to talk and open freely. I feel you, but if you were having a conversation with somebody and they were like, the moon is full of Swiss cheese, do you say that's interesting? You move on for the fact that the person just said the moon is full of Swiss cheese. What if the person starts using the N-word or start going after the Hispanics? What do you do? I mean, are you saying that you just let them have certain conversations on your platform and your network to put it out as if what they're saying is true when it's just kind of propagandish nonsense? I think even on those shows, you have to push back. David Letterman, do you remember when... Oh, who was it? It wasn't Trump. It was somebody else. It was a big-time celebrity, ends up going on the David Letterman show. And David Letterman shreds the guy. Now, talk show, you're supposed to just have a conversation. But Letterman clearly didn't like the guests because the guest was saying things that was against what Letterman believed in. And Letterman was willing to have this conversation with the guests on those items. I think you always push back. I think you have to. A dingo ate my baby. That's what 20 million went to fix. Oh, I'm not going there. Jeremy Shellman. In the end, they're all talking about themselves. Kind of a waste of time. Percy is gold. Chuck E. Cheese. Like it or not, statistical averages bear this point out. Parental principle is real, and the fact that Google speech to text software knows what parental principle is cough. I don't know what parental is. I know what Michael Parento is, but I don't know what the parental principle is. The password is avarice. It's avarice. I don't like it, but it's his show, it's his rules. That's fair, but I can criticize it. can damn sure criticize it, and so can she. And so can she. So, yeah. Rubin sold out big time. I agree with her on that point. He probably just didn't have a political ideology. Here's a bunch of money. Oh, I found Jesus. I found Jesus. I'm in something different now. And then, so I don't doubt her point. Her point is probably true. It's just a glass house. That's all I'm going to say. It's just a glass house. Just a glass house. Oh, I see. I've actually read Parento's book on the concept that created the principle. I see. Pareto's principle. I have a confession to make. Before my awakening, my conservative friends got me to watch Milo and Ben Shapiro. Then I found you and Dore. Oh, welcome. Come to the light. Come to the light. Look, the funny part is, I don't. The question, the arguments I think that sometimes that's made allows the right to get more support, because Democrats often end up in this they're so dissimilar. Like the similarities or they agree on reality and the way reality is, but in both of those cases, workers get screwed over in that process. We don't have an advocate in a process like that. We need an advocate. We don't have one. Now you have this faux left that hugs identity because it doesn't want to deal with real economic issues. Well, I'm making this point that those things are not dissimilar from one another. That if you actually want to represent identity and all this other stuff, you have to do it through economic means. But that economic means is not specific to the identity. It's talking about basing a campaign and a movement on things that affect a wide base and creating a class consciousness in the public as you go about doing that. We're not the same. I'm sorry. There's a class distinction in this country, and that supersedes all these ideas of race and sex and gender and everything else. The issue is class. The issue is class. Now, you're going to have right-wingers who tell you that the issue is immigration. That's nonsense. You're going to have right-wingers who tell you can't afford this stuff. That is also nonsense. We spend like $1 trillion on the military. I was reading this thing today on the amount of money that we spend each year on healthcare. It's astronomical amount of money. And we're like 33rd in regards to rankings. I went down the paper the other day. It was like one of the worst countries for infant mortality rates, worst countries for suicides and all this other stuff. It doesn't have to be that way. And not just that, for the amount of money that we pay for healthcare, we could cover everybody. We could cover everybody. I'm just making the point that our society could be different. It doesn't have to be this way. These hacks, you have certain people with certain political and economic interests that are in areas of politics and media. And they present a particular story that doesn't want to talk about class because they are of that particular class. And the last conversation they want to have is why we have so much and everyone has so little. And they damn sure don't want to focus on a system that allowed that disparity in wealth to take place and get worse. My basic argument is the conversation needs to be based there. And if the party system, Democrats or Republicans, are not willing to necessarily have that conversation, then you need to go beyond the party structure. That's my main point. That at least from the Democratic side, I hit this from the left, so fair enough. If they're not representing your interests, they shouldn't get your vote. Period. There's nothing else behind that sentence. There's nothing else behind that sentence. Just saying. But yeah, Russia. Oh, Wesley, thank you. Thank you, Wesley. But I guess my point is, Wesley, thank you for coming. And I've gotten letters from people who were right-wingers, consider themselves right-wingers, full-on right-wingers. And they would say, you know what? I agree with like 70% of the stuff that you're saying, and that blows my mind. Here's the thing. I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, I'm not anything. I care about certain things and those things working. I don't care the lens that it takes in order to get those things done. Usually, anything that gets done takes place through the left. Also, it just so happens that anything that takes place is running up against opposition of interests that want to keep things the way they are. Both parties. Not one or the other. Both. Ocasio-Cortez won that race, and she is going to have to run against the party structure that she's in. They're going to hug her. Don't get me wrong. They're going to rub themselves in some Ocasio. Oh, Ocasio is in the Democratic Party. See, we can change. Come on in. I would make the point to not necessarily be fooled by that. And also that, yeah, she is also going to have to run against her party. Vote for the people who represent your interests. And be loud about the fact that you're not voting for somebody who is not representing your interests. If there is some random corporate hack that they're going to push up instead of pushing somebody who's actually going to represent real things, then they should fail. Failing is the thing that gets progress. And I know that sounds weird, but it's changing the structure that we're using in our political system. This is not working. This is not working. That's all I'm saying. Oh, this stuff with the Trump at the border. The edifice was already there. Yes, Trump jumped the shark and made it worse, but let's be honest that it was already a shitty situation that Trump made shittier. Not everything was hunky-dory and fine. The world didn't fall off of a cliff when Trump took office. Didn't fall off of a cliff. You don't change the Democratic Party changes you. Chris B., we're going to see. And that's not always true from a historical context. If there's any flailing or trepidation on my part for stuff like this, it's just from a historical context that's not fully true. The Democratic Party was not always this way. Even in my mom's memory, it wasn't always this way. Think about Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter maybe have started the transition, but you had New Deal Democrats who were in those offices that were antagonistic to Wall Street, who were skeptical of Wall Street, who were skeptical of business interests, and did, at one point, at the very least, had some connection with labor. That changed. Ultimately, the Democratic Party, for the most part, at some point realized they need us. Not necessarily the other way around. Or at the very least, it is the other way around, but we can camouflage the fact that we also need them by scaring the shit out of them about what the Republican Party is and what the Republican Party is going to do. We can have a magnificent level of brinksmanship, in which case we say we're least worse. We can take money, we can lean in the same ways that Republicans lean, but just be moderately less worse. I'm saying on areas of climate and on areas of economics, that policy has failed. Losing 1,100 seats is called failure. By any other name, it is an epic, overwhelming, unmitigated, undiluted, unvarnished failure. Part of this interregnum that's taking place, this uncertain time when there's a potential change in leadership, this is an opportunity. And this opportunity need to be grasped. But part of that opportunity is solidarity of no. Being willing to say no. Nothing changes without them understanding that there is a coordination between what the people actually want versus what they're actually doing. And right now, those things seem to be untethered. Well, you create the tether by making sure that they lose. It's not that I love what that means. I understand there's a hit that you take with a Republican being in office. By the same token, I understand there's a hit that you take by putting some random corporate Democrat in that office who's not going to achieve or advance the goal or the ball down the line. A bunch of people who don't know what they stand for. A bunch of moderates. I don't like moderates. I like people who know what they are. And in this case, I don't see the point in voting for them if they don't. Treat us like we're insignificant, but if we don't feed them, they die. That's the capitalistic system as a whole, which is the argument that I make. Oftentimes, the argument is put in these weird ways of that guy's a commie or that guy's a socialist or anything else. I'm none of those things. I'm nothing. There's certain things that I just want. I want to make sure people have their needs met. I think that's one of the most basic things in the world. Now, if you're telling me that there's somebody that has $140 billion and somebody else living on the street, I'm going to tell you that there is a problem with the economic system that redistributed wealth in ways where he got that many resources, one guy, versus somebody else who's living on the street. That is not the fault of the individual. That's the fault of a system that would even allow an individual to get to that point. That's the point I'm trying to make. We could be different. Doesn't have to be this way. Doesn't have to be this way. It's hard to reach them through the muddled political discourse. Standing up, yes, that's true. Gandhi, don't participate in your own slavery. Lord Glennie, I love that. I love that. I love that. Don't participate in your own slavery. God, I love that. Chris B, socialism. You know what's funny? Nancy Pelosi, God, I love this. Nancy Pelosi, they asked Nancy Pelosi, and mind you, there's history to this. Nancy Pelosi was questioned by a guy who said, look, seeing that all these millennials are okay with socialism now, shouldn't the party move further to the left? Nancy Pelosi says, just so you know, we're capitalists. We're capitalists. We're capitalists. All right, fair enough. You're capitalists. Now, once again, Nancy Pelosi has to deal with this question. And I may do a whole video just on this, where she responds to the person saying, no, socialism is not ascendant in the Democratic Party. I love the wording of this. Socialism is not ascendant in the Democratic Party. The characterization that Republicans are making of Democrats is not true. Is that the characterization that Republicans are making about Democrats? It gives you an idea on where her head is, though, meaning Nancy Pelosi has to deal with more of a national profile as opposed to people who have to deal with a local profile, if that makes sense. If that makes sense. I'm fascinated by it, man. This stuff is awesome. This stuff is awesome. Corporate welfare. I am not a capitalist, Nancy. No, she says I am a capitalist. You haven't heard? Oh, I am not a capitalist. Right, social welfare. The military budget. I think I know where the 2 dislikes came from. Oh, that's funny. Nancy Pelosi doesn't know what the hell is going on, and I mean on a fundamental functional level, like knowing where she is, who she's talking to. Oh, tell Chris that's brutal. That's brutal. That's brutal. National Socialism, more commonly known as Nazism, the order of chaos. Yeah, but come on. Certainly, you understand that a socialistic party in Germany that ended up being this kind of authoritarian right-wing nationalistic party is a little bit different than somebody talking about democratic socialism. The values are different. The values are different. Slavery was a choice is becoming a right-wing meme. Candace Owens, Kanye Peterson said it to Tim Black's face. That was a crazy debate. No way. No way. He said slavery was a choice. Those people are fucking idiots. Those people are fucking idiots. Hitler hated communism. Yes, Hitler did. He was a fascist. Fascists tend to have these kind of authoritarian governments that lock down labor and knock out like worker rights and so forth. If you remember, but it's weird though. Like, so Hitler's an odd case because they do call it National Socialism, etc., etc. I think the key feature in that though is the nationalistic part, not the socialistic part. If Hitler is expelling the Jews, invading other countries, but he's providing health care, are you telling me that the feature of the nationalistic part and the right-winger part is not more important than him giving a few social programs? That's nonsense. You have capitalistic systems, they have social programs. So you have somewhere like London and Switzerland, well, they have social health care. I'm trying to make this point that having a social program is not necessarily the epitome of a socialistic system. That's all. And the nationalistic part and the right-winger part tends to be a little bit more prevalent in Hitler. So, I feel you, but that's my point. Joshua Renshaw, good luck, AOC. Elizabeth Ocasio-Cortez. We're beginning to get the threshold where the revolution cannot be achieved prior to bloodshed. Bernie or guillotine 2020, choose your revolution. Oh wow, that's more of it. The more I think about this, we're beginning to get to the threshold where the revolution cannot be achieved prior to bloodshed. I understand what you're saying. You're saying that things have gotten to the point where trying to make any real progress through the political system itself is looking to be almost impossible. Is it fair to say that it always looks impossible before it changes? Is that also fair? But I feel you. I understand where you're coming from, Joshua. Beltazar, the only thing that changes less than the Democrats is Nancy's face. Oh God. When you repeat the same things over and over, you'd expect different results. Your name is Peter Dow. No, Peter, have you heard? Peter Dow has tweaked his message. He's tweaked his message. Peter Dow has come out saying he's apologetic if any of the Bernie supporters have taken him wrong in his criticisms. Oh, that asshole. Can't stand him. Can't stand him. I don't like Dow. Don't like Dow. All right. I'm going to end this. My wife came in and said, didn't you say you were going to end this an hour ago? So I'm going to end this now. Guys, I appreciate you guys showing up. And like I always say, I appreciate all the help for the channel in order to keep this thing ticking along. So thank you very much. I'll see you guys shortly. I want to take a quick break, but I'll be back for the next item. Thanks, everyone. Oh, and let me make sure I haven't missed anybody. Okay. Wesley, man, I gotta be honest, man. I'm enamored that you say that, and I'm enamored that you say that because there's this perspective that Trump voters are unreachable, that they're crazy, they're racist, they're whatever. All of these negative connotations that's piled on the people who made the decision to vote for Donald Trump. And I understand why people may have that perspective. I mean, after all, Clinton ran this scorched earth campaign of Donald Trump is going to eat babies and kill kids. To some degree, he did rip kids from their mothers, but that wasn't part of the campaign, scorched earth. And still, people were, oh my God, hell has been unleashed on Washington and the United States. I took somewhat of a different perspective. My perspective was more so, well, wait a minute. If you had like 30% of people who voted for Obama and then voted for Trump, clearly those people aren't racist. Those people, at least that group, wanted something different or wanted something that they didn't get from the last administration, that they gave them a chance on. I've spoken to people who are white who said, I gave Obama a chance. He dropped the ball. Nothing changed. I didn't get my hope and change. So now I'm giving Trump a shot. I've met people who made that argument face to face, and I'm looking at them like, but what about the other racist stuff? Well, he's white. He doesn't get it. We, African Americans, have one party to vote for, usually. We don't have two parties. We have one party. Usually, you grow up having this kind of binding to the Democratic Party. Well, whites don't have that issue. And you can say they're completely insensitive about it. A lot of them are. But they don't have those qualms. They don't understand from their standpoint, or at the very least, it doesn't materially affect them, whoever goes into that office. It affects their resources, but it doesn't affect their person. And I'm saying materially from the standpoint of their person, meaning their rights being curtailed. They haven't had that treacherous history in this country where those things are, where the country and the edifice itself is used against them. They vote against their own self-interest. Yes. Oftentimes they don't quite understand it because they don't pay attention to politics. They don't regard their history honestly. There's a lot of stuff that you can pile on to that. But the key point that I kind of want to nail home here is, from their perspective, there are two parties. There are more than two parties. Whether Trump takes office or whether the other person takes office, it's not going to be anything that they're going to be terrified of, per se. They may not necessarily like his policies, but it's not going to be them being put in prisons or black sites or whatever. They will be okay. The law is not going to be used against them in a particular way. And not to mention, even when the law is used, well, we know there's disparity in justice that takes place based on demographics. In his head, we believe the hope and change stuff, and we never got the hope and change stuff. So this other guy who's talking about making America great, we're giving him a chance. That was his argument. And I'm looking at him at this point like, but the guy's a racist. I'm like that's the only thing. I'm like, but you just voted for an open racist to be in office. Look, my point in this is, after I started doing this channel, I started to realize that not everybody had that disposition. That the perspective that Democrats were trying to make here was political scorched earth. And while you have a faction of them that are that way, that faction has always been in the party. They've always been there. That's not a new group of racists that all of a sudden just start burying their heads. The question here is not whether you can get them. The question is, can you get the people who actually believed and wanted something to change and didn't get what they wanted and were conned, or at the very least maneuvered into going for Trump? My hypothesis was that those people were reachable. Now, I didn't, it's one of those things where you start seeing people on your channel and you're like, why are these people on my channel? These guys are right-wingers. Some of this, yes, may be because I particularly dislike Democrats. Some of this may be hate for Hillary. But some of this is also when you get down into this idea of policy and you have people who say, okay, I think he's trying to be fair. I give him a fair listen. And policy ideas that are lefty, like full-on lefty, get into the political discussion in a way that that goes beyond just the normal rejection mechanism of this kind of cultural party politic. That's a bonus. That's a plus. I think the reason I like what you said, Wesley, this thing of, going to Shapiro and then finding Dora myself, is that at the very least you've allowed a different perspective on it. That's all. A perspective that I would argue is more hopeful, with this idea of our arrangement can be something different and it doesn't have to be this way. So you have no idea how much I like hearing that, Wesley. Thank you. Let's see, what's this? First, they came for the socialists and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. And then they came for the Jews and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me and there was no one left to speak out. I've heard that before. I don't exactly remember where it came from, but man, so true. Like, it's a binding thing, man. Like, this thing of, we're not... When I see protests, let's say like Black Lives Matter protests, I often think to myself, BLM, environmentalists, LGBTQ, all of these groups are the same. They may have these specific areas in which they're trying to actually get some kind of justice in. But ultimately, they're coming from a left-leaning perspective in going about their affairs. They should be united. It's not an issue that affects one individual. We should be united. These identity issues matter less than the economic issues. I'm sorry, they do. It's like this person is absolutely free to die on the street without health care. Is that really freedom? And even Martin Luther King, when he was going about his way, focused heavily on economic justice. So, all right, guys. Thank you all very much. I'm going to end this here. All right, guys. If you enjoyed the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support the Patreon. Thanks, everyone. And we are...